Hey YouTube fans, Richard Ross from ComputerLearningZone.com here. One of the things I've been doing is going through some of my old classes and re-releasing them here on YouTube absolutely for free. This is my old PowerPoint 101 class now. This is from PowerPoint 2003. And a lot of you probably aren't still using this old version, but a couple things. First, a lot of the techniques are actually still pretty valid for the newer versions of PowerPoint. Yeah, the screens have changed a lot, but the techniques are the same. So if you've never used PowerPoint before, if you're a little curious, check this out. Even if you have used PowerPoint, you might even still pick up a few tips from this old version. Second thing, I'm going to be releasing a new version. I'm updating this for PowerPoint 2019. It should be available in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be putting a copy of Level 1 absolutely free right here on my YouTube channel like I've been doing with all my classes. And if you want Level 2 for free, that's another whole hour class, all you have to do is sign up for it. I'll put a link in the description down below the video. Sign up, costs you absolutely nothing, and as soon as Level 2 is released, you'll get a free copy. So sit back and relax and enjoy this old version of PowerPoint 2003 Level 101. This version was originally released 17 years ago, and you'll see some differences between the videos then and now. Back then, of course, the audio and video resolution wasn't anywhere near as good. But I'd like to think I've gotten a lot better at doing this in the last 17 years, too. My presentation style back then wasn't anywhere near as good. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy.
Welcome to PowerPoint 101, brought to you by PowerPointLearningZone.com. I am your instructor, Richard Rost. In today's class, we're going to learn the basics of Microsoft PowerPoint. We're going to learn about the PowerPoint interface. We're going to learn how to create a PowerPoint presentation using the Wizard. And we're going to learn how to create a presentation from scratch, which is how I prefer to create them. We're going to learn how to use the slide sorter to arrange the slides inside your presentation. I'll give you some tips for giving your presentation. We'll see how to insert graphics into your slides. And I'll show you how to save, load, and print your PowerPoint presentation. Our goal for today is to get you up and running quickly with PowerPoint, building presentations. We're going to go over some of the stuff quickly today, and we'll cover the details in future classes. But again, today our goal is just to get you up and running and building your first presentations. Before you take this course, I strongly recommend you take our Windows 101 and Word 101 classes first. I'm going to assume that you're familiar with basic word processing and that you know how to edit text. Some of the concepts like cut, copy, and paste I've covered in Word 101. I'll go over them briefly in today's class, but if you want to learn how to edit text and work with text, Word 101 is where I cover most of those features. And of course, there's a lot of text editing involved in creating your PowerPoint slides. So for my customers who've already taken Word 101, I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over things like changing fonts and font sizes and cut, copy, and paste, and topics that I've already covered in Word 101. I will go over them briefly in today's class for those of you who have not taken Word 101. In today's class, I'm going to be using Microsoft PowerPoint 2003. Now this course is valid for pretty much every version of PowerPoint from 97 up to 2003. If you have PowerPoint 97, 2000, or XP, you might notice some minor cosmetic differences. Some of the things, for example, in the slide wizard are a little different. Some of the options have changed, but pretty much it's the same program. Now PowerPoint 2007 has made some significant changes, and we'll be covering those in an upcoming PowerPoint 2007 class. While you're watching this course, I recommend you sit back and relax and watch each lesson completely through once. Then, watch the lesson again a second time and follow along with the examples on your computer, building the presentation that I do in class. The best way to learn is to follow through the examples from class. If you have any questions about today's class, please post them in the student forums that you'll find to the right side of the video. If you're watching through our Amicron video player software, you'll notice over on the right side of the video, you'll see our PowerPoint forum. Feel free to scroll down and type in any questions that you have down here. You'll also notice a link to the student forum for this class on our website at PowerPointLearningZone.com. What is PowerPoint? PowerPoint is a tool for communicating ideas, information, and data. PowerPoint can be used for sales presentations, board meetings, training lessons such as this one, and in just about any place where information is presented to one or more people. PowerPoint gives you everything you need to present a professional-looking presentation. PowerPoint offers text editing, graphics, graphing, drawing, animations, sounds, and presentation management tools all in one easy-to-use application. PowerPoint can also be used in conjunction with Word, Excel, and other Microsoft Office applications. PowerPoint allows you to place your ideas, information, and data into a presentation. A presentation is a collection of one or more slides. In PowerPoint, a slide is a screen with information in the form of text, pictures, graphics, clip art, graphs, or other data arranged with a common theme. Slides can be edited, organized, and sorted all inside PowerPoint. Although we're not going to cover it in today's class, you can even add cool sounds and animations to your PowerPoint presentations. We will cover that in a future lesson. PowerPoint can create different kinds of presentations. For example, you can use PowerPoint to present to a group. You can create something on a standalone computer that can be browsed by an individual. Or you can even create a web-based presentation, all using PowerPoint. In addition to creating a slideshow, you can also print out handouts, outlines, and speaker's notes, all from within PowerPoint. So as you can see, PowerPoint is a very versatile tool for creating presentations, and it has many uses. Let's get started using PowerPoint by opening the application. Here I am at the Windows desktop. I'll begin by clicking on Start. Then I'll come up to All Programs, and then Microsoft PowerPoint. And when I click on it, PowerPoint should start right up. And there it is. Now let's take a moment and go over the different parts of the PowerPoint interface. Parts of the PowerPoint interface. If you're familiar with Microsoft Word or Excel, you'll find that PowerPoint has a lot of similar features. Across the very top of the screen, we have the title bar. Notice across the top of my screen it says Microsoft PowerPoint Presentation 1 in my title bar. When you save your presentation and give it a file name, this Presentation 1 here will change to whatever the name of your file is. We'll talk about that in a little bit. In the upper right-hand corner, we have the Maximize, Minimize, and the Close buttons. Here they are right up here. Now I covered these in detail in both Windows 101 and in Word 101, but as a quick refresher, the Minimize button sends the application down to the taskbar on the bottom of the screen, so you can work with something else, like if you want to move PowerPoint out of the way so you can work with Word or Excel. The Maximize button makes it fill the entire full screen up. And of course, the X, the Close button, closes down the entire presentation. Now, of course, if you're running Windows Vista, or you've got one of the different Windows XP themes installed on your machine, your Minimize, Maximize, and Close buttons might look slightly different, but they all function exactly the same. Next, we have the menu bar. The menu bar has our standard features such as File, Edit, View, and so on. And if you click on one of these, it pulls down a menu. We'll cover a lot of these different features today and in future lessons. PowerPoint has several different toolbars. which you can find. One is right below the menu bar, and another one, the drawing toolbar, starts off on the bottom of the screen. Now, as you can see here on my screen, I have two separate toolbars. I've got the standard toolbar across the top here with things like new and open and save. And I have a formatting toolbar right below it, font, font size, bold, italics, and underline, and so on. Now, depending on how PowerPoint was configured on your machine, you might have both of those toolbars together as one big long toolbar. If you want to separate them, which I recommend, just simply move your mouse right here in front of the word Arial. You'll get a four-way pointer. Click and drag that toolbar down just slightly, and you'll see that it docks itself below the first one. In some older versions of PowerPoint, like PowerPoint XP, both of the toolbars were next to each other on the same line. That sometimes made it difficult to access all the buttons. Of course, if you have the screen space and the real estate available for it, it's always best to have those toolbars spaced out like that. Also notice down here on the bottom of the screen we have our drawing toolbar. We'll talk about this a little bit later. The drawing toolbar is used for inserting things like lines and arrows and boxes and text and images and clip art and all kinds of nifty things into your slides. And again, we'll see how this works in a little bit. Now, for those of you who use Microsoft Word and Excel, take note that the drawing toolbar actually does exist in Word and Excel also. However, it's hidden by default. I'll show you how to turn it on and off a little bit later. In Microsoft PowerPoint, we're going to use the drawing toolbar so much that they turn it on by default. Next, we have the slide area. Now, the slide area is this big region right here in the center of PowerPoint's screen. And this is where we're going to add our text and our pictures and our slide objects for our presentation. Over to the far left side, we have the Outline and Slides tabs. When you're building your presentation, you can either choose to see the slides themselves here, or you can work in an outline view. And I'll show you how this works in a little bit. You can also resize this region by grabbing this bar right here, and that'll make that bigger or smaller. Notice the Outline and Slides tabs change to little pictures. See that? That's the Outline and Slides tabs. Now, over on the right-hand side, you'll see the task pane. Now, the task pane has changed a little bit since the last version of PowerPoint. The one you see now on the screen is the one from PowerPoint XP. And here in PowerPoint 2003, they've changed it a little bit more. Okay, you can see this as slide layout across the top, and some other different options are in this menu. Now, we'll talk about this in a little bit. Underneath the slide, we have the Notes pane. Right down here where it says click to add notes, you can click right in there and type in your notes. Now, these notes can either be for yourself, or you can use them to print out handouts for people who are watching your presentation. You can put anything down here in the notes that doesn't necessarily go on the slide itself. Now, we're not going to cover speakers' notes and handouts in today's class, but we will cover them in a future lesson. In the bottom left corner, we have the Views buttons. Now, these buttons right here are useful for switching between the different modes in PowerPoint. For example, here's Normal View. We can also see Slide Sorter View, which is useful for moving your slides around. And then we have the Slideshow button, which actually runs the slideshow presentation. And I'll show you how this works in a little while. Across the very bottom of the screen, we have the status bar. My status bar here, for example, says I'm on slide 1 of 1. I'm in default design mode, and I'm using English US as my language. You'll see other information pop up down here on the status bar as we use PowerPoint. There are lots of different parts to the PowerPoint interface. I've only covered the brief introduction to them here. And as we work with PowerPoint in this and future lessons, you'll see how all the different features work. We're going to start today by using PowerPoint's AutoContent Wizard. If you're in a hurry and you want to throw together a presentation fast, you can use the AutoContent Wizard, which basically walks you through step by step creating your first presentation. Personally, I don't really use the AutoContent Wizard much, aside from teaching in class, because I've found that people who've seen a lot of PowerPoint presentations start to recognize these as the standard template presentations, and they can get quite boring. So after I show you the basics of the AutoContent Wizard, then I'm going to show you how to create your own presentations from scratch. But we're going to start off walking before we run, so let's see how the AutoContent Wizard works. My goal, of course, is to get you to be able to build presentations without the AutoContent Wizard, but this is a good first step. The best presentations, of course, are always the ones that are built from scratch that have that personalized look and feel to them. Now, when you first start PowerPoint, they give you a nice blank slide in a blank presentation. Now, normally we'll work with this blank slide and go from there. But for today, I want to click on File and then New. And when you do that, notice over here on the right-hand side, the task pane changes. You'll notice that the task pane will change based on what you're doing. Down here below, you'll see From AutoContent Wizard. Go ahead and click on that. All right, here's the AutoContent Wizard. It says the AutoContent Wizard gets you started by providing ideas and an organization for your presentation. Let's come down here toward the bottom and click on the Next button. Now PowerPoint wants to know what type of presentation you're going to give. We've got generic, recommending a strategy, communicating bad news, training, and so on. These are all under the general category. There are different categories over here like corporate, projects, sales and marketing, or all to see all the different templates that are in the system. For class today, our fictional company is going to a trade show. So I'm going to click on Sales and Marketing, and I want to put together a product and services overview. Now click on Next. Next, you're asked what kind of output you'd like. Now, on-screen presentation is the default. That's usually what people use PowerPoint for giving a presentation to a group of people on the screen, either on a projector or on a laptop. But there are other methods. You can do a web-based presentation. You can create black and white or color overheads, or even format it for 35mm slides. For today, we're going to stick to on-screen presentations. And again, we'll click on Next on the bottom. Now we're asked to give a presentation title. Let's click here. And I'll type in the name of my fictional company, PCResale.net. I'll hit the Tab key to move to the next field, which is items to include on each slide. There's a footer that you can put on the bottom of each slide if you want the same information to appear in there. Now, personally, I don't like the way this looks. I like to leave the footer off because I don't like to have the same footer on the bottom of each slide. I'm going to show you in a future lesson how we can create something called a slide master, where you can put things on the background of each slide. For now, let's leave this blank, and I'm going to uncheck these two boxes. I don't want to see the date last updated or the slide number on the bottom of all of my slides. Let's click on Next again. And that's it. That's everything that PowerPoint needs to put together the shell of your presentation. So I'll hit Finish and let PowerPoint do its work. And that's it. There we go. PowerPoint has put together a basic outline for a presentation for us. It's not perfect, and we're going to make some changes to it, but it's a start. Notice over here on the left-hand side, PowerPoint has put together a basic outline for us with some standard slides. We've got a title slide, an overview slide, and if I click over here, you can see it changes over on this side. If I scroll down a little bit, you can see there's a features and benefits slide. I'll scroll down some more. There's applications, specifications, pricing, availability, and that's the end of our presentation right there. So there's 7 basic slides that PowerPoint created for us. Notice on the first slide, PowerPoint automatically put my name in here, Richard Rost. That's because I'm the registered owner of the software. If you want to switch from outline view to slides view, you can see over here is a small version of each slide. There's the overview slide, the features and benefits slide, and so on. So there's the outline view and the slides view. And of course we have the big main slide over here to the right side. And if I scroll over, you can see there's the slide in its entirety. We've got PCResale.net across the top, a little box that says your logo here, and of course my name down here, which PowerPoint assumes is the presenter. There is also a scroll bar over here on the right side where you can scroll down through the different slides. There's many ways of moving between the slides and moving around inside your presentation in PowerPoint. And if you notice, if I grab the actual scroll box here, you can see a little window pops up that says slide 3 of 7, 4 of 7, and so on. There's many different ways. You can also use these little buttons down here, previous slide and next slide, to move between them. Lots of different ways to get around inside of PowerPoint. Okay, so back to the first title slide here. Looking at this presentation, the first thing that I don't really care for is the general overall layout and the look and feel. I don't really care for the brown or the marble or even the fonts. So let's see if we can change the way that our presentation looks, the way that our slides look. Now, PowerPoint has a whole bunch of different design templates that are built in that allow you to change the look and feel of your slides. And you can either use the built-in PowerPoint ones, or you can create your own. Again, if you're a PowerPoint novice, no one's going to yell at you for using the built-in templates. However, once you get a little better and a little more experienced, you might decide to go off and create some of your own templates and create a customized look and feel for your presentations, and we'll show you how to do that in a future lesson. Now, up on your toolbar, you should see this button right here that says Design. If you hold your mouse over it, it'll pop up Slide Design. Go ahead and click on that button now. That opens up the Slide Design task pane. In case you're missing that toolbar button or you can't find it, you can also get to this by clicking on Format, and there's Slide Design. And if we still have any PowerPoint 2000 users out there, you'll have to click on Format and then Apply Design Template. It'll all bring you to the same place. Now over here in the Slide Design pane that pops up, you'll see here's the template that's used in this presentation. It's a real simple one. And if you scroll down, you'll see here all the different templates that are available for use. And they all have names like clouds and steam and ocean and shimmer, and you can scroll down this big long list and find a template that you think looks good. Alright. Now if you'd like to see what one of these looks like, just go ahead and click on it. I'll click on clouds, and you can see my presentation changed. Right over here. There's my slide. And you can see over here in my slide list, all my different slides have been updated with the new template. If you don't care for that one, pick a different one. There's ocean, there's steam, and so on. Now, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the templates list, you'll see Design Templates on Microsoft Office Online. That's a special link that'll take you to Microsoft's website where they've got tons more different templates that you can download. I'm not going to walk you through that in today's class, but feel free to explore it on your own. So I think I'll stick with this shimmer template that I picked. And now I'm going to go ahead and close down the task pane over here on the right-hand side by clicking on this little X. That gives me more room on the screen to work with. I don't usually keep that task pane open. I only open it when I need it. And so there we go. I've got my basic presentation all set for me. Here are my different slides that I can get to by either clicking on them in the slide view, or I can scroll up and down over here. I'm not incredibly happy with that title slide. We'll change that in a few minutes. But you can see all the rest of the slides look nice. So that's how you create a basic presentation using the AutoContent Wizard. Now in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to edit this presentation and add text and change colors and do little things like that. And eventually, we'll get into working with creating a presentation from scratch. In the last lesson, we put together a brand new presentation using the AutoContent Wizard. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to edit that presentation and customize it for your needs. Here is the first slide in our presentation that PowerPoint created for us. It's called the title slide, and it looks slightly different than the rest of them. Now, the first thing that I don't like about it is that my name, Richard Rost, is taking over the entire slide. There's this big yellow box in the middle of it. And it's not just this particular template. Also, all the other templates had the same big, gigantic box on the first slide. So I want to change that. So what I want to do is take this big box and make it smaller. Now notice when I move my mouse over that box, it changes. See that? The mouse pointer changes from a single arrow to an arrow with 4 little tiny arrows around it. That happens whenever you move over a text box. This big yellow box here is called a text box, a box with text in it. Now, if you click on the text box, notice the border changes. You now see this white hashed border around it with these little circles at the corners and in the middle of the sides. Now, you can resize a text box by moving your mouse pointer over one of these little circles until you see a two-way arrow. Click and drag to resize that text box. Now when I resize that text box, I see a surprise. There was another text box hiding behind the first one. Somehow that template made this box really big, and it hid this text box behind it. That's not a problem since we know how to resize these guys now. Just simply move over one of these little dots here. You can do either the sides or the corners, and that's how you resize a text box. Now, if you want to move the text box, simply move your mouse over the border itself, but not on one of those little dots. So like right here, for example, click and drag, and that will move the text box. See that? That's where you resize it, and that's where you move it. All right, pretty easy stuff so far. Now for my trade show, I don't really want my name down here on the bottom. Again, I'm going to be using this as a presentation running on a computer at a trade show. So it doesn't need to say Richard Rost on the bottom. How about a welcome message, like welcome to PC Trade 2008 Expo or whatever it's called. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click on the text. Notice I now get an eye cursor just like in Microsoft Word. And I can either use the backspace and delete keys, or I can simply take my mouse and click and drag to highlight all the text. And then I can just simply type something over it, like welcome to PC Trade 2008 Expo. Okay, and that's how you change the text in a text box. All right, then just simply click off of the text box somewhere to save your changes. Now, you may see little red squiggles under some words. I cover this in my Microsoft Word 101 class, but that is the spell check on the fly. And essentially, it's telling you that PowerPoint has no idea what those words are. It's a misspelled word or an unknown word. Now, personally, I don't like spell check on the fly. I always turn it off because when I'm in the design phase of my presentation, or even when I'm making a document in Microsoft Word. I don't want to be interrupted and told to fix my spelling errors. I would rather finish my presentation or finish my Word document completely, then go back through afterwards and spell check it. So I find that it interrupts the creative process to have to look at these red squiggles. But if you like them, you can simply right-click on any one of these things, these words here, that PowerPoint says is incorrect. Right-click on it, and you can either ignore it or you can add it to your dictionary. Now, ignoring it means that PowerPoint won't bother you about this word anytime for this particular presentation. And adding it to your dictionary means that's a word that you want it to remember for all time. Don't ever bother me with it again. Well, I'll just pick ignore all for now. And the same thing down here with PC Trade. And notice how with PC Trade it actually gives you a couple of suggestions. It gives you words like putrid and patrice. And if one of these was the correct spelling, you could click on one of those. But again, I'm just going to hit ignore all for now. If you decide, like me, that you never want to see spell check on the fly again, you can click on Tools and then Options. And on the Spelling and Style tab, just simply turn off the Check Spelling as you type box. And you'll never be bothered for that again. I personally don't like it. I'll show you how to do a manual spell check in a future lesson, or watch my Word 101 class where I go into spell check in much greater detail. Now, I don't particularly care for the color of this text box. The white text on yellow makes it very hard to read. So what I'm going to do is click once on the box. If it's already highlighted, don't click on it again. In fact, you might want to click off of it and then back on it again, because you want to have the box selected, but you don't want to be in text edit mode. See that difference? Right? That's not selected. That's selected, but in text mode. But that is just selected by itself. So you don't want to be in text editing mode with the text selected like that. So just click on the border, or simply click off of it and then click on it, but not on the text. All right, it's a very slight difference, but this won't work if you're in text editing mode. So select the box, and then down here on the drawing toolbar, you'll see a fill color box right there. In fact, if I move my mouse over it, it says fill color. And if you just click on that paint bucket, you'll get the color for the background that's in the paint bucket, which right now is like a light blue. But you can drop this box down and change the color. In fact, there's no fill, there's automatic, there's a bunch of different colors shown here for the template, the color scheme. You can also click on more fill colors down here, which I'll show you later. But for now, I just pick like a darker blue. And that looks much better. All right, looks a lot better. Now, the This Logo Here box. All right, I don't want to put a logo on here yet. We're going to, but not right now. So I want to delete this box. How do you delete it? Well, click on the box, but again, not inside the text editing mode in here. So click on the box border somewhere, and then hit delete on your keyboard. Goodbye, and it goes away. That's how you delete a text box. The next thing I want to do is center the PCResale.net here. Now, if you see, it's left justified. See that right there? If I click on PCResale.net, you can see the box's dimensions go all the way out to there, but the text is aligned left inside the box. So I'm just simply going to click on Center. Now, this doesn't matter whether you're in text editing mode or just simply have the box selected. All right, you can still change it from left to center to right up here. Okay, and again, I cover a lot of this stuff. This formatting toolbar, cover a lot of this stuff in detail in Word 101. We can also use these little buttons here to increase and decrease the font size. See that? Increase the font size and decrease the font size. And of course, if you don't know what a font is simply the way the text looks. And again, I talk about this in Word 101 a lot, but the different fonts here you can pick from change the way the text looks. All right, that's MS Reference Sans, there's MS Gothic, there's a whole bunch of different ones in here. My personal favorite is Tahoma. This is the font size. You can either set a point size like 60, or you can use these little buttons here to increase or decrease the font size in steps. Of course, here we have bold, italics, and underline, and our justifications here, left, right, and center. Let's take a look at the next slide. I'll come over here and pick slide 2. There's an overview slide. It says briefly describe the product or service, the user problems it solves, and the audience for which it is intended. Outline different models available. Now, for our trade show, our fictional company, PCResale.net, does a lot of different things. But let's say that for this particular trade show, we want to focus on one specific product or service. Let's say selling new computers. So let's say instead of overview, I want this slide to be titled Our Computers. So I'm going to change this text box up here. Now, one single word, just simply double click on it. Watch this. Click, click. See that? That's a trick I show you in Word 101. And then you can just simply type right over it. Our computers. Now, if you hit enter, you get a blank line inside of the text box. So don't hit enter unless you want a blank line. You can click off of it like that, and that will stop editing that text box. Now we can click down here and change the text of the page. All right, let's highlight all of this text and just press delete and type in all new stuff. All right, PCResale.net builds the finest custom computer. Oh, look at that. See, when I typed in custom computer, I did not press enter, and it automatically wrapped around to the next line for me. You don't have to press enter at the end of each line. Just like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint will wrap your text around inside the text boxes. Systems, period, and then I'll press enter. And notice we're creating a bulleted list here. Here's the button right here for bullets. All right, you could turn those off if you wanted to. We'll talk more about bullets in detail in a future lesson. But for now, we'll continue working with our bulleted list. Turnaround time, only 3 business days. Enter. 90-day money-back guarantee, on-site and depot service available. And that's good enough for now. Now that I'm done, I'll just simply click off of that text box somewhere, or over here where there are no text boxes, and you can see there's the slide. I'd like to change the way PCResale.net looks, so I'm going to click and drag to highlight it, just like that. Maybe bold it, change the font. Let's go with Arial. And we go Arial Unicode. There we go. That's fine. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. And I want to change the color too, because right now it's just white. Let's highlight it like this. And over here on the right side of the toolbar, you see that A, that's for the font color. You can drop that down and change the font color. Now you can pick one of these colors that's built in here. These are the colors that are in the color scheme, like that blue. That looks pretty good. Or you can change it to any one of the different colors by clicking on More Colors, and you get this big color wheel. Okay, you can pick any one of these colors from in here, the pinks, the yellows, the greens, or you can even click on Custom and go to town with all kinds of different options that are in here. All right, let's go with like a light pink. I'll hit OK, and there we go. PCResale.net in light pink. All right, let's move down to our next slide. I'll come over here and pick slide 3, Features and Benefits. And once again, I'll come in here and erase all this text and type in my own stuff. We use only the highest quality components in our systems. Systems are built by hand and tested by skilled technicians. This creates an extremely low return rate, which keeps our costs lower, and we pass this savings on to you. It's funny because when I started teaching PowerPoint way back in the early 90s, my company did sell a lot of new computer systems, and we built them in store by hand. And of course, as time went on and computers became more commoditized, buying a computer today in 2008 is kind of like going to the store to buy a DVD player. Back then, in the early 90s, there were still a lot of custom computer builders because computers cost anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000, and the margins were still there. Today, of course, those margins are gone, so there's very few small computer builders. And that was your Computer Builder History 101 portion of today's class. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these different slides for today's class, but you would just go down the list here and change the details for all of these slides. Now, let's say you don't want one of these slides. Let's say you don't want a specifications slide. How do you get rid of it? Well, over here in your slide sorter, right over here, right-click and select Delete Slide. And that will get rid of the slide. You can also optionally come up top here and click on Edit and Delete Slide. That'll get rid of it too. And it's gone. If you decide right away that you want it back, you can hit the Undo button, and that'll bring it back. Now, I've deleted a slide, so I only have 6 left. What happens if I want to insert a new one? Well, all you have to do is right-click over here somewhere and go New Slide. Now, notice I right-clicked between slides 3 and 4. So when I hit New Slide, it inserts a blank slide between what was slides 3 and 4. That'll also happen if you right-click on a slide and go New Slide. It'll insert it after that slide. So I just right-clicked on slide 3. It inserted the new slide after slide 3. And you can, of course, always, let me undo that. You can, of course, always click on Insert and then New Slide from the menu bar. Now, along with your new slide, you get a new task pane here. It says Slide Layout. Apply Slide Layout. Now, the one that we have right now selected is this guy right here. This is the title and text layout, where you have a title across the top and some bulleted text below it. There's also a title slide that looks like that. There's title only. That's handy if you want to drop some pictures on there. There's title and 2-column text, where you get 2 columns of text. And there's more down below here. Now, we'll talk more about these other ones in a future lesson here, but there's blank, there's content, there's title and content, there's all kinds of stuff. And content can be pictures, or videos, or graphs. There's all kinds of different ones down here. See these? All right, other layouts, charts, media clips, right, org charts, all kinds of stuff in here. For now, let's just keep it simple. Let's pick this one, title and text. All right, once you've selected the appropriate layout, you can close the task pane. Let's say on this new slide you want to put your contact information, right? Then I'll just put the phone number and all that stuff in here, right? Now notice when I typed in a web page address, PowerPoint automatically made it a hyperlink. Usually that's okay. If you don't want it, just simply hit Undo. There's your Undo button right there. And yes, in case you're wondering, and I know some of you are going to open up your web browsers right now, PCResale.net is actually a real website. We registered it for our front page web design class so that we could build a fictional website for this fictional company. And the funny thing about it is we actually get inquiries on this website from people who find it that really want to buy a used computer. So it's kind of started off as a joke, and we actually get real inquiries from it. But that is how you would create a new slide. Now that's all for now with the basic editing of our presentation goes here. Let's go ahead and save this in case you want to get back to it later. I'll click on the little floppy disk here on the toolbar to save my presentation. And I'll save this as my PCResale.ppt. Now you might not see that .ppt on your screen. That's whether or not file extensions are turned on your computer, and that's a Windows setting. So if you don't see the PPT don't worry about it. But make sure down here it says Save as Type Presentation, and then click on Save. And that will save your presentation to disk, and make sure up top here it says PC Resale, or whatever you called yours. And that is how you create a basic presentation. Now, for the end of today's class, I'll show you how you can actually give the presentation and show it to others, or let it run on a computer screen in a loop. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create a presentation from scratch. Now, in the last lesson, we used the AutoContent Wizard to create a presentation for us, and then all we had to do was fill in the blanks. That's okay, but your presentations can look much better if you get practiced at it by building them from scratch. And, of course, you get much more control over them. Creating a presentation from scratch not only looks better, but using this method, it allows you to get all of your ideas out first into the system, into an outline, and then once the content has been created, then we can go back and worry about formatting it. It's kind of the philosophy that I take when I'm writing a document or creating some kind of a story. I want to get all the information out, get all my ideas either on paper or into the computer first, and then go back and apply formatting and make it look pretty. Alright, so we're going to worry about substance over style here and make our presentation the right way. Now, if you still have PowerPoint open from the previous lesson, let's go ahead and close down just the presentation. Don't shut down PowerPoint. This X button on top here will close down PowerPoint, the whole program. But the X below it, this little guy, will close just the window, or just our PC Resale presentation that we made in the last lesson. So I'm going to close that, and that'll put me back here. Now, you can see my PowerPoint 101 slide is open. The introductory screens that you see for this class are actually made in PowerPoint. That's all I do. There's nothing fancy about it. Right? It's just a PowerPoint slide with a little graphic down here and some custom formatting. Okay? But I'm going to close this one down too so I can go to a blank, brand new presentation. So let's close this one down. And you can either click on File and then New, or you can just click on this little white piece of paper right here. Now that'll put you in a blank new presentation. And mine happens to say Presentation 6 because I've had several open in this session, but the number here isn't important. Now I'm going to focus on building the outline of my presentation first. I'm not going to worry too much about slide layouts and all that stuff. So I'm going to close down the slide layouts pane by clicking right there on the little close button. Now over on the left-hand side, you'll see I've got my slide list and my outline. Let's go over here to Outline View. Remember these two tabs? Right? If I make that bigger, Slides and Outline. Let's go to the Outline View. Now, PowerPoint 2097 users, you will not have these two different tabs here. You will not have an Outline and Slides tab. However, down here on the bottom where these buttons are, you'll have an extra button that says Outline View. Again, that's for PowerPoint 97 and 2000. But XP and 2003 users will have the Outline and Slides tabs. Now, right now, most of the window here is taken up by this very large slide preview over here on the right-hand side. And I could click here to add a title and do all that stuff that we've seen already. However, I want to work with my outline, not necessarily each individual slide. So I'm going to take this bar in the center here, click and drag it to the right, and make my outline pane larger. Okay, again, just move your mouse right over this little gray bar until you see that double-pointed arrow. Click and drag to move that around. Alright, don't close it completely, just make it so that your outline is large enough to work with. Now we can go ahead and start entering in the actual outline for our presentation. So I'll click right here next to the 1, and I'll type in PCResale.net title slide. And then I'll press Enter to move down to slide 2. And we'll flesh this all out in a few minutes and put details on each slide. But I want to know that that's going to be my title slide, the first slide that'll introduce the presentation. Now for the second slide, I'll type in welcome message. And I'll make this like a welcome message from the president of the company to all the people who come to the trade show. Now, as you're typing in your slide names, you could either type in all the slide names first and then go back and put details in, or if while you're thinking about it as you're making each slide, you can add some notes during the middle of the process. Either way, whatever works best for you. I'm going to put a little bit of detail with this one, so I'm going to press Enter and then press the Tab key. Now, as soon as I press the Tab key on the keyboard, notice how it indents under slide 2 and gives me a little bullet. That bullet simply means I'm putting detail information on slide 2. So I'll go ahead and type in some details like, thank you for attending our trade show. Enter for another bulleted item. We have been serving the industry since 1994, let's say. Enter. And you can keep pressing Enter to add more bulleted items, and these will show up on your slide. Now when you're done entering items, you can press Shift-Tab to move back to the slide level. Hold the Shift key down, and then press the Tab key. And that moves me back to the slide title level, so I'm ready to enter in the title for the next slide. That'll back you up one level, or promote you, as it's called in PowerPoint terminology, to the slide title level. There's promote and demote, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And now I can type in the next slide. Our products, Enter. And if I want to at this point, I can hit the Tab key to demote myself down to the detail level, right? Custom built computers. Maybe I should back up and make that a capital B. Just using my arrow keys, nothing fancy. The home and end keys also to move to the beginning of the line and the end of the line. That's home and end. A lot of these are tricks I teach in my Word 101 class. Enter, right? On-site service, enter, and training. Oh, and don't forget used PCs. That's what PC resale is all about. Enter, and then Shift-Tab to promote back to the slide title level. So as you can see, by building our presentation this way, PowerPoint lets us get the details of the presentation, the meat of the presentation together before we start worrying about all the colors and fonts and graphics and pretty stuff. Again, it's the same technique that I use when I'm writing a document in Microsoft Word. I ignore spelling and grammar, and that's why I turn the spelling and grammar checkers off like I showed you earlier, because I don't want to be interrupted while I'm getting my ideas out into the computer or on paper. I build PowerPoint presentations the same way. I like to build the outline first, and then when I'm done getting all the information into the system, I'll go back and apply formatting and colors and slide themes and things like that. Let's make a few more slides. How about our staff? Another slide. Okay, now I'm thinking before the our staff slide, but after our products, I'd like to perhaps put a features and benefits slide in. Now, later I'm going to show you how to use something called the slide sorter where we can move these slides around at will. But for now, just while I'm working in the outline view, I want to insert a slide in front of our staff. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my mouse and click right here after used PCs. At the end of slide 3, press Enter and then Shift-Tab, and that'll create a new slide right in there before our staff. I basically inserted a blank line and then using Shift-Tab promoted that to a slide instead of just a bulleted item. This will be my features and benefits slide. Press Enter and then Tab to type in the details for this slide. And there we go. Let's add another slide down at the bottom, so I'll scroll back down to the bottom. I'll type in locations, type in a few cities, there's where our offices are. Shift tab for the next slide. Let's put a pricing info slide in there. Now I'm not going to put actual pricing in yet. I'm going to save that for later, but I want to remember to make a pricing slide. So I'll just put the slide title there. How about a contact info slide? And I'll put our phone number and our fax number and all that good stuff in here, which we can fill in the details later. All right, and there we go. And that's all the information that I want to cover in this presentation for now. So let's go ahead and save this presentation. You can either click on File and then Save, or Save As, or simply hit the floppy disk button on the toolbar. Now, I've created for myself a PowerPoint 101 folder to put all of my presentations in. You're going to save yours probably in your My Documents folder. Now, I'm not going to cover files and folders in this class. I talk about files and folders in much greater detail in my Windows classes and my Microsoft Word classes. Wherever you're saving your presentations, that's fine. We're not going to concern ourselves with the file locations in today's class. Notice over here on the left-hand side, you'll have shortcuts to different areas in your computer, such as your desktop and your My Documents folder. And that's where I recommend you save your presentations for now. Just click on your My Documents folder. I've already made myself a custom folder to put my PowerPoint 101 presentations in. Now I'm going to change the name of my presentation from PC Resale to PC Resale from outline.ppt. And you can type in whatever you want. You can make a PC Resale 2 or a new presentation or whatever you want to call it. That old PC Resale one was the one we made in the last lesson, where we made it using the wizard. So I'll hit Save. And now you can see the file name up here on the title bar, PC Resale from outline.ppt. Now that I have my presentation saved, I can go ahead and close it by clicking on the X over here. To open your presentation back up in the future, you can either click on the Open button right here, or File, and then Open. Or if you look down at the bottom of this File menu, you'll see the last several presentations that were open. Starting with number 1 here, there's the most recent presentation that we've worked on. So I can simply click on that to open it back up again. I'm going to close it again just to show you something else. If your presentation doesn't show up on that list at the bottom, simply click on File, Open. The Open dialog box pops up, and you should see a list of all of your presentations here. I'll click on the one that I want to open. You'll see the title slide preview over here on the right. Then just click on Open. Now we're just about done with our outline here, but there are a few other small things I want to add. For example, on my Our Products slide, after training, I'd like to indicate to whomever is watching this presentation that we offer both classroom and online training. So I'm going to click here after training. I'm going to press Enter and then Tab again. That will move me to a level underneath training where I can put that in here. Classroom, Enter, and Online. Now you can see that I'm demoted under the training level, and I can put in some details under training. And of course you could add sub-levels under these as well. Enter, Tab again. Right? If you decide you don't want that, just simply backspace over it. Backspace, backspace, and it's gone. So that is the essence of creating a PowerPoint presentation from scratch. We typed in an outline, a rough outline at this point, but we'll flesh it out later. And we've got all of our ideas down in the computer, and we have that information saved. Building a PowerPoint presentation is often both art and science. And so far I've showed you the science portion of it, which is getting the outline in the system. And now we'll take a look at more of the art behind PowerPoint. So in the next lesson, we'll learn how to edit that PowerPoint presentation that we just created and format the slides and make our presentations look professional. In the last lesson, we put together a presentation using the outline view and we made it from scratch. Now let's see how we can edit that presentation to make it look more professional. Here we are back inside of our presentation. Now that we're pretty much done with the outline, let's go ahead and resize the outline pane so we can work with the slide. There we go. I don't want to close it completely. I'm still going to work with it a little bit. So let's just resize this so the outline is small and the slide is taking up most of the space now. As you can see, PowerPoint starts you off with a plain white slide with very little formatting. Now, as I mentioned in the first lesson, the best way to make your presentations from scratch is to actually create your own backgrounds, your own graphics, and all that stuff. However, we're not going to get into all that stuff today because it's a little more advanced. So today, all we're going to do is we're going to apply one of PowerPoint's built-in design templates to change the look and feel for our PowerPoint slides. As we get a little more advanced, I'm going to show you how to create your own background graphics, your own images, and all that stuff. We have to learn how to walk before we can run, and for today I just want to show you how to create your presentation and make it look professional. So I'm going to click on the Design button and pick a design template. I think this time I'll go with Ocean. Once you find a presentation template that you're happy with, I'm going to go ahead and close the Slide Design taskbar. And let's go back over here and click on Slide 1. That'll be our title slide. Now, I don't need the words title slide on my title slide, so I'm going to highlight the words title slide and delete them or backspace over them. And then maybe let's make the PCResale.net text larger, so I'll select that text and I'll just hit the increase font size button. That's good. Then I'll click over here in right field to unhighlight that. Now down below we have this box that says click to add subtitle. If you recall, when I ran the wizard, it put my name in there. But I'm going to click there and just type in some text. Alright, Trade Show 2008. And then I'll click down here in right field to unhighlight that box. Let's move down to our next slide. I can either use the scroll bar buttons here, or I can use these little navigation buttons here. There's next slide, previous slide. Or you can actually click on the slides over here in slide view. Now for our welcome message, I'd like to replace this bulleted list of stuff here with a simple paragraph that welcomes the visitor, whoever's reading the presentation, to the trade show. So I'm going to delete all of this text by simply highlighting it and pressing delete. And then I'll type in a paragraph of text. Welcome to our 2008 trade show. And I'll type in my text. There we go. This will be our 10th year in a row that PCResale.net has attended this show. We are very pleased you could attend. If you have any questions, please see one of our consultants and they will be happy to answer them. Now I'd like to get rid of this bullet right here. Alright, so I'm going to click up here. You can click anywhere inside of the paragraph. You don't necessarily have to highlight the whole thing, but you can if you want to. And then simply click on the bullet button right there on the toolbar. And the bullet disappears. And of course I can reformat my PCResale.net, highlight it, bold it, maybe increase the font. And so now you see how easy it is to take a presentation that we've created just as an outline, go in and apply a design template to give it a professional look and feel, and then go through and edit the slides individually, making formatting changes where needed. Now, we're going to do a lot more of this in upcoming lessons, but I just wanted this to be a really, really short introduction as to how that works. In this lesson, we're going to have some fun. We're going to learn how to add graphics to our presentations. Specifically, we're going to learn how to add clip art, drawing objects such as squares and circles and all kinds of nifty things, and images. Here we are on the Our Products page. Wouldn't it be nice if I could put a picture of a computer right here? Fortunately, Microsoft ships a whole bunch of different types of clip art with Microsoft Office and PowerPoint. Let's click on Insert, and then Picture, and then Clip Art. The Clip Art task pane appears over here on the right. Now, PowerPoint 97 and 2000 users will get something slightly different. You'll see this Insert Clip Art dialog box appear with different categories down below that you can click on to find different pieces of clip art. So this is different. This is for PowerPoint 2097. PowerPoint XP and 2003 users get the task pane for it. And here's the task pane. Now you'll see the word bunny in mine. That's because I did a search earlier for some clip art, and I typed in the word bunny. So you'll see the last search that you performed right here. But I'm going to get rid of bunny and type in the word computer. I'll then click on Go, and PowerPoint will search for any clip art that is associated with computers. Now down here on the bottom, PowerPoint shows you all the different pieces of clip art that have anything to do with computers. And you can scroll down through this list and take a look at all the different types of computer clip art that's in here. And there's a lot of it. Alright, I'm going to come back up top here and pick, I just saw the one that I like, this one right here. I'm going to click on that one. And notice when I click on it, it's inserted into my slide for me. See that? Now, if you want to search through all the different types of clip art that comes with Microsoft Office, it's organized by category. You can click on this little link here that says Organized Clips. This opens up the Microsoft Clip Organizer, and you can poke through all these different folders. For example, here's the Office Collections. Click on the little plus next to it to open it up. Here's Academic and Agriculture and Animals. And you can look through all these different categories by simply browsing through them. I'll come down here and find Technology. And you can open that up. There's Computing. And here's all the same pieces that the search brought back that had to do with computers. And again, you can simply click on them or drop this little button down here for more options. We'll work more with the clip organizer in future lessons. For now, I've got my computer on my slide already, so I'll just close down the clip art task pane. Now notice, as soon as my piece of clip art came into the slide here, a new toolbar appeared. This is the picture toolbar, and we'll talk about all of these different picture toolbar options in a future lesson. There's things on here like adjusting contrast and brightness and cropping the image and so on. If you click off of the piece of clip art, that toolbar goes away. If you click back on it again just once, you'll see it reappears. In fact, some users may see this toolbar floating near the picture. In fact, in Office XP, that was the default. You'd see the picture toolbar floating right next to the picture. But we can grab the title bar, the area right here next to the word picture, anywhere on this little bar here, click on it and drag it up and dock it with the rest of the toolbars. Now, let's move this piece of clip art over to the right a little more, because PowerPoint inserted it right into the middle of our slide. I'm going to move my mouse over that piece of clip art. Notice the four-way arrow that appears under the mouse. I'm going to click and drag it over here. You'll see the outline sliding across the tab, and then I'll let it go. Alright, click and drag and drop. And that's how you move an object. If it's not selected, you can simply just click and drag it that way too. But it's best to select it first and then click and drag it. You'll find that most objects in PowerPoint, and indeed in all of Microsoft Office like Word and Excel, most objects will behave the same way. We can move and resize them in pretty much the same fashion. Objects include things like clip art and pictures and circles and squares and auto shapes and things I'm going to show you in a few minutes here. Now I'd like to make this piece of clip art a little bit bigger. It's kind of small. You can resize an object by simply moving the mouse over the corner and then click and drag. Notice how I resized that piece of clip art. Now you can either resize it by using the corners or the middle of the edge here, that dot in the middle. Now if you use the corners, PowerPoint will maintain the height-width ratio of the object. In other words, it'll always be the same ratio of height to width. If you use the sides here, that'll skew it. So it could be wider than it was tall before, or the other way. See, now it's really, really tall and not so wide. Okay, so to maintain the height-width ratio, simply grab the corners. All right, and that's about a good size right there. Now, PowerPoint XP and 2003 users will notice this little green dot. The little green dot is to rotate the image. You will not find this in 97 or 2000 versions of PowerPoint. It's a new feature. You can click on this and drag, and that will rotate the image. See that? Just click and drag to rotate. There we go. Now I'd like to add a caption under here beneath my piece of clip art. Take a look at the bottom of the screen, and you should see the drawing toolbar down here on the very bottom of the screen. You'll see tools down here like auto shapes, and there's line, an arrow, rectangle, oval. Here's one called text box. Now text box is a box with text in it. We've been working with text boxes, you just didn't know they were called text boxes. These guys up here, for example, are text boxes. Well, I'd like to add my own text box right down here below my clip art. So I'm going to click on the text box tool, then come up here. Don't hold your mouse button down, by the way, at this point. Just click on this to select the tool, let the mouse button go, then come up here. Notice how I've got like an upside down cross as my pointer? Just simply click and drag where you want the outline of your text box to go, and then release the mouse button. Now you can see I've got a teeny tiny text box ready to accept some text. Custom built computers. Alright, and again you can click on it, you can move it around, you can center the text, increase the font size a little bit, maybe bold it or not, and then click off of it, and there's our new text box. Let's see how some of these other objects work. How about the arrow, for example? Let's find our locations slide that has our cities on it. I'm going to add a text box over here that says headquarters. All right, real simple. Then I want an arrow pointing to Buffalo, New York. So I'm going to click on the arrow tool. Come over here, we want the arrow to start, and then click and drag to Buffalo, New York. Right there. Click off of it, and you'll see there's the arrow. You can change some of the options for the arrow. Make sure the arrow is selected, so click on it once. Right down here is the line color. You can either click on it to get the white that's underneath the little brush there, or drop this box down and you'll see a whole bunch of different colors. And of course, we've already seen how we can click on the More Colors option to pick from the palette of different colors. I'll go with light pink and then hit OK. Now I have a pink arrow. This next button over here will change the line style. Click on it and you'll get a menu of line options. We're currently set to 3/4 of a point. You can make the line thicker by simply picking one of these other line options here, like 3-point. And now you can see the line's a little bit thicker. There's also a dash style and an arrowhead option. Now notice these are grayed out right now. See that? The options are grayed out. That's because I clicked off of the arrowhead after I applied the style. You have to make sure you click on the arrow and then you can pick these options. I'm going to move my headquarters down to the bottom here so that I can show you these options for the line a little better. I'm going to also click on this arrow. Now I don't want to move the whole arrow down here. I just want to move the start of the arrow. So I'm going to come over this one dot, click and drag. And see how I did that? I moved where the arrow started by simply clicking on the arrow line and then grabbed one of the dots there. And that's how you can move where the arrow goes. You can change both endpoints that way. Let's change our headquarters to Houston, Texas, just like that. Okay, and I'll move headquarters up right next to it. And of course you can resize these boxes too, just like we've seen already. There, now I can demonstrate these a little bit better. Right, and of course I need to click on the line first, drop this down, and I can pick a thin line, or I can pick one of the thicker styles. Alright, the dashes and dots, see that? There's a dot, there's a dash, or a solid line. And of course you can change the arrowhead styles, right? This one points to the right, this one points to the left. See how it changed the arrowhead? Right? These are a different style of arrowhead. A two-way arrowhead. Alright, these ones have different styles for the arrows. So pick one that you like. And when you're done, simply click off of it. Let's go to one of our other slides. I'll just pick a slide here. It's got a lot of blank space on it. And let's add a few other shapes. How about a rectangle? Find the rectangle tool, click on it, come up to your slide, and then click and drag to create a rectangle. There's a solid filled rectangle. And you'll get whatever background color you have currently selected in the fill color box there with the paint bucket. All the tricks that I showed you earlier for text boxes work here, like resizing the rectangle with the corners or the edges. You can rotate the rectangle by grabbing the little green button there. See? Now here's a trick while you're rotating. Normally if I grab this and drag it, it sometimes is hard to put the rectangle back exactly straight if you want it to be perfectly horizontal or vertical again. But if you hold the Shift key down while you're rotating it, notice how it goes in even angle increments. So you can go 90 degrees like that, or it's easy to do 45 degrees. See that? I believe those are 15-degree increments. Okay, see that? So that's holding down the Shift key while you're rotating. If you want to change the color in the box, just simply come down here, grab the Fill Color button, and either click on one of these colors in here, or of course you can go to More Fill Colors, and pick a different color from your palette, or go to Custom, and select your own color. And there we go. And of course, a lot of these other options here apply as well. For example, here's the line color. We can change the line color. Works the same way. Now we've got like a light yellow line color. There's the thickness of the border. We'll go with a really thick border. Dots and dashes like we just saw. And arrowheads don't apply to rectangles, so those are all grayed out. There's also shadow style and 3D style over here. Shadow style lets you pick from these different types of shadows here. For example, there's a shadow going down to the right. It's kind of hard to see there. Let's try a different one. How about up and to the left? There it is. There's a big shadow. See that shadow it's casting? I'm going to try a different one. How about this one? There we go. There's another shadow. And some of these are easy to see if the box is up a little higher. There it is right there. But I'm going to turn the shadow off by picking no shadow. We'll talk more about shadows in a future class. And let me turn those dotted lines off. That's bothering me. Let's go back here and take a look at the 3D styles. Look at that. There's a ton of these different 3D styles here. And I'm just going to show you basically what they do here. Again, we'll talk about them more in a future lesson. Let's just pick one of them. There's a 3D style there. And you can see how my box has a 3D effect looking to it. See that? Alright, and we'll cover 3D boxes a little bit more later. I'm going to turn that 3D effect back off. Now you can actually add text to a rectangle and most of these other shapes by simply right-clicking on the box and coming down to add text. That'll give you a cursor, just like a text box, and you can type in, anything you want. Okay? And of course, format that text up here, right, with the increased font size and such. See? And bold. And the color. See that? Now that's rectangles. Circles and ovals work the same way. I'm going to delete this object by clicking on it once and pressing delete on my keyboard. Right? The oval tool works pretty much the same way. There's my oval. I can change the background color, the line color, right? The font color. This is just a copy of the same font color button that's up on the top toolbar. Same exact button. Right? Right click, add text, and all the same rules apply. Okay, just another type of object. I can click on that and delete it. Now there's also this fun thing right here called auto shapes. Drop that down and you'll see all kinds of nifty stuff in here. There's lines and connectors and basic shapes. All right, there's a little happy face guy. There's little pluses and triangles. All right, block arrows, flow charts. I'm not going to show all of these to you today, but I strongly recommend you come in here and play with these. These are really fun. For now, let's just pick a block arrow. I'll pick a block arrow and I'll pick, let's say this one here, the left arrow. I'll click on that. Then I'll come up here and draw my auto shape, just like I'm drawing out anything else, like a square or an oval. And there's my auto shape. Okay? And you can resize it and move it around. You can rotate it. Sometimes on these auto shapes you'll see a little yellow button, and that little yellow button changes some aspect of the auto shape. For example, this one changes the size of the arrowhead. See that? Some of them are different. Some of them, like stars for example, it changes the depth of the star. Right? And of course you can change the color and the line color and all the things I showed you before. You can right click on these and add text. Okay, and all the same tricks that the other shapes allow, you can also do with the auto shapes. All right, just to show you another one, let's go to stars and banners. All right, there's an 8-point star, 16-point star. I'll pick one of those, and I'll draw my auto shape right here. See that? There's the little yellow dot that just changes the depth of the star. All right, change the color, right-click, add text, all right, and stuff like that. And of course, that's kind of dark to read, so we'll change the font color. Okay, let's delete that one. There's one more auto shape I want to show you, and that's on the stars and banners. Pick one of these up ribbons or down ribbons, because these have a lot of options on them. All right, draw the ribbon out. Notice this one's got a couple of these different little yellow buttons. See, they change different aspects of the ribbon. See, this one is up and down, and this one changes how big the fold is. See that? You might encounter several different yellow buttons that change different aspects of the auto shape. And of course, we can right-click and add text. And there you go. Now, the really nifty thing about this drawing toolbar is that it exists in the other Microsoft Office applications too, like Word and Excel. So knowing how to add these different objects here in PowerPoint, you can do the same thing in Microsoft Word, for example. All you have to do is turn the toolbar on. Now, the easiest way to turn the toolbar on is to simply right-click anywhere on one of the existing toolbars, and then just come down here and turn on the drawing toolbar. There's lots of different toolbars in here. There's tables and borders and reviewing and picture and outlining, and we'll talk about these as we go on. But you can turn these toolbars on and off in the different Microsoft Office applications. Now, Word and Excel have their own custom toolbars as well, but some of these are standard to all of them. Like, for example, the drawing and the picture toolbars are pretty much the same. Okay, let's delete this banner down here. Click and delete. And let's say I want to put a picture of one of our staff people on this page. How do I insert a picture? Now, I'm going to assume that you have a picture that you can insert that you've either taken with your digital camera, or you scanned in with your scanner, or perhaps even grabbed off your website. I'm not going to show you how to do that in today's class. That's a whole separate class altogether. But assuming you already have the picture somewhere, perhaps in your My Documents folder or on your desktop, all you have to do is click on Insert, Picture, and then From File. From File means you have it in a file saved already on your system somewhere. Now, I'm taking my Pictures folder. I don't have anything in my My Pictures folder. So I'm going to switch over to the PowerPoint 101 folder that I created earlier, and that's where I'm saving my files. But you just have to browse to wherever your files are stored. If they're not in My Pictures, they could be on your desktop, for example. You'd click here. Or maybe in your My Documents folder, you'd click here. Now, navigating through these Windows folders is something that I cover in more detail in my Windows courses. But just go to the folder where you have your pictures stored. All right, here I am in my PowerPoint 101 folder, and there's a picture of me. I'll click on that, and then I'll come down here and click on Insert. And there's my head real tiny in the center of the slide. I'm going to resize it. There we go, there's me. I'll click on this, drag it over here, and that's how you insert a picture into your PowerPoint slides. And there you have it. Now you know how to add clip art, the drawing objects like rectangles and circles and auto shapes, and images into your PowerPoint slides. Now, there are lots and lots of different options. For example, there's that whole toolbar of different picture options, and we'll cover those in a future lesson. But for now, I just wanted to show you how to get these objects into your slides so you can start working with them. Now it's time to learn how to organize your slides and to actually give your presentation. Now in today's class, I'm not going to cover tips for being a better presenter. That would involve lessons on appearing in front of a group and perhaps a little bit of acting. If you'd like to see something like this, please post a note in the class forum for this particular course and let me know that you're interested in something like that, and I could put some lessons about that in a future PowerPoint class. However, today I'm just going to cover the technical issues in giving your presentation. One of the best things that PowerPoint helps you do is to get organized. And if you're better organized before you start your presentation, it makes it that much easier to actually give the presentation. First, let's talk about organizing our slides. Now, there are a couple of different ways we can organize our slides. For example, here we have our welcome message, our products, features and benefits, our staff. Let's say, for example, I want our staff to go before features and benefits. All you have to do is take our staff, click on it, and then click and drag it up. And notice the little horizontal line moving there? Wherever you drop that, that's where the slide is going to be inserted. So I just released it there, and now notice it's in front of features and benefits. Right? Just click and drag, and that's where you drop it. Now, this technique works fine for a couple of slides. What if you got a bunch of them you want to move around? Well, down here on the left, we've got these little buttons. Remember these? Normal view, slide sorter view, and slideshow. Let's click right on the slide sorter view. Now, this guy appears, and you can see miniature versions of all your different slides here. All right, you can scroll up and down using the scroll bar. Okay. You can also change the zoom level, which is how close in you are looking at these slides. For example, I can zoom in to 100%, or I could zoom out to 25%. Or you can type any number in here that you want, let's say 40%. Okay? I'm going to zoom out so I can see all of my slides. Like 33% is good. I can see all the different slides in here. Now again, if you want to move slides around, all you have to do is click on them and drag them where you want to go, like there, for example. Or click on this blank slide at the end and drag it up here. You can also move multiple slides. For example, let's say I wanted to move all three of these slides to the end. Just simply click in here in front of the first slide that you want to move. Click and drag it down and hold it down and let it go. And now I've selected all three of these slides. See that, how all three of them are selected? Now click on any one of them and drag them down where you want them to go. And there we go, I just moved all three of them. Okay, let's say I want to move these three slides. Start over here even. Click and drag backwards. And then you can click and drag and drop it where you want them to go. Right, just click between them like this. See? Click and drag. Now, of course, I've just scrambled my presentation all up, so let me move things back around the way they kind of were here. Let's see. Move that there, move this up here. I think that's how I had it. This one goes at the end. You can also delete slides in here. For example, I don't want this blank slide to show up in my slideshow, so I'll click on it and hit delete on the keyboard, and now it's gone. And now I can zoom in a little bit more. That's too much. Let's go to 45%. No, too much still. How about 40? There we go. That's a little better. You can even add new slides in here if you want to. Just simply right-click somewhere that's not on a slide, and then go to New Slide. You get the slide layout pane popping up, which you can pick a layout. I'll close that. And there's your blank slide. Let's delete it again, so it's gone. So now we know how to rearrange our slides inside of our slideshow. So let's pretend we're in front of the group. We've got the laptop and the projector all set up, and everything is running. And now it's time to give our slideshow. All right, the first thing to do is load this up on your laptop, and then make sure you're on your title slide. You can either be in a slide sorter, or you could even be out here in normal view. That doesn't matter. All right, as long as you see your title slide up here in PowerPoint. If not, the presentation will start in the middle of the show. Whatever slide you happen to be on is the one it'll start at. So click on your title slide. Now come down to your little buttons here and pick Slideshow. Now it says Slideshow from current slide, or you can hit Shift F5 to start it, but I'm going to click on the little button here. And there we go. You should notice that your presentation fills the screen. It's a full screen presentation. And yes, there is a way to run it inside of a window, which I will show you in a future lesson. Now to advance to the next slide, simply click anywhere on the slide with your mouse. That'll bring it to the next slide. You can also use the page up and page down keys on your keyboard if you don't want to see the mouse cursor floating over here. Okay, I'll move off of here, and I can use the page up and page down keys on my keyboard. Some people prefer that. Other keys that also work, the arrow keys, the up and down arrow keys, and the enter key and backspace key. There's lots of different keys you can use to go forward and backward through your slides. The space bar also works too. So you can use any key combinations you like to scroll through your slides. And then when you're all done, you'll see the end of slideshow. End of slideshow. Click to exit. And that should bring you back here. You can also, if you're in the middle of your slideshow and you decide you want to abort it prematurely, you can hit the escape key on your keyboard. That will also bring you back into PowerPoint. And that's really all you have to know about giving your presentation. Now, there's lots of other tricks in here. And I'm going to show you a lot of this stuff in future lessons. For example, you can right-click in here. And there's some different options. Okay, and we'll talk about these different options in a future class. There's also different pen options. You can turn on different like felt tip pens, for example, and actually draw on the screen. I'll cover this stuff in a future lesson. This is some really cool stuff you can do while you're giving your presentations. Now, if you'd like to print out your slides so that you can see them while you're giving your presentation, and that way you can look down, for example, if you're at a lectern and you don't want to have to keep looking back at the slideshow up on the wall, you can simply go to File and then Print. That'll bring up the printer dialog box. Down here on the bottom, you'll see Print What. There's slides, there's handouts, note pages, and outline view. We've talked about slides and outline view. We're going to cover handouts and notes pages in a future lesson. All right, but you can come in here and print this stuff out. All right, there's the outline, there's the slides, color or grayscale, also pure black and white. That's because you might not want to waste the ink if you have a color printer and you don't want to have that blue ocean background, for example, printed on each slide. You can simply pick one of these. You could change the number of copies, for example. If you want 3 copies, if you want to print out a copy for everyone in your audience. You can print the current slide, all the slides, specific slides, for example, slides 1, 5, and 7, or slides 10 through 13. Okay? Let's say, for example, you just want a quick outline for yourself. You can go to Outline View. You could pick black and white, which should be black and white anyways. Hit the Preview button, and you'll actually see a preview of what your printout's going to look like. See that? And when you do that, your mouse changes to a little magnifying glass, and you can click to zoom in. But this is great for giving your presentation. You can see all the different sections of your outline right in front of you, and you don't have to keep looking back at the slides themselves. Right? You can change this stuff up here too. Right? Slides. Okay. Handouts we'll talk about in a future lesson. There's also notes pages if we don't have any notes yet. When you're done, simply hit close. That'll put you back into PowerPoint's edit mode. So that's how you organize your slides with the slide sorter and give your presentation. And I also talked about printing your slides out. So since this is just a PowerPoint slide, I'll click right in here. And I'll come to the end and I'll press Enter. And I'll type in printing, slides, and outlines, because I covered that as well. Let's take a minute now to review what we learned in today's class. We learned about PowerPoint, what it is. We learned the parts of the PowerPoint interface. We learned how to create a presentation with the PowerPoint Wizard, which basically builds a presentation for us and we just fill in the blanks. Then we learned how to create a presentation from scratch. We learned how to use the slide sorter, tips for giving our presentations, We learn how to insert graphics, including clip art, and objects like circles and rectangles, and of course actual graphics pictures themselves. We learn how to save, load, and print our presentation and our outline. Thank you very much for taking this class. I hope you've enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun recording it. If you have any questions about the material covered in today's class, be sure to visit me at the website, powerpointlearningzone.com/contact, and you can ask me your questions there, or feel free to post it in the user forums for powerpointlearningzone.com. While you're at the website, be sure to check out my free tips and tricks section at powerpointlearningzone.com/tips. Now, if you're stuck and you have a problem with PowerPoint, and it's something that you can't figure out, and perhaps it's not something that I necessarily covered in today's class, you can ask your question at powerpointlearningzone.com/tech-help. Now, at this page, you can either submit your question, and I'll try to get to it in a future lesson, or if you have a problem and you really got to get a solution quickly, maybe it's something for work, or you got a presentation coming up tomorrow and you can't figure out how to do something, for a small fee, I can get back to you right away with the solution. So again, that's powerpointlearningzone.com/tech-help. Now, the only way I can make these classes better is with your feedback. So please take a minute and go to powerpointlearningzone.com/survey and let me know what you thought of today's class. Did I go too fast or too slow? Was there enough material covered? Let me know on the survey page. And of course, you can take your skills check test at powerpointlearningzone.com/test. And if you successfully answer all the questions, you can print out a certificate of completion. What's next? Microsoft PowerPoint 102 is the next class. And in that class, I cover lots of new material about PowerPoint, designing custom slides and animations and all kinds of neat stuff. This course is copyright 2008 by PowerPointLearningZone.com, all rights reserved. This video may not be reproduced, copied, edited, or otherwise distributed without the express written permission of PowerPointLearningZone.com.